Let's talk about 3 areas of inner stillness. Calming the system down. How do you listen to your body? We have 2 skills for this. Learning the language of the body and creating quietness. Focusing on creating that quiet. Filtering out the noise. And much of that noise happens through stress. What are your main stressors? There are 5 main stressors in people's life: relationships, work, loss, big changes like a move, illness. So, how is our stress response? Our brain releases adrenaline and cortisol. They signal your brain to drive blood from your prefrontal cortex, which is the decision-making center, to the amygdala, which is the fear center. Your heart rate starts to increase to provide more energy when necessary. Your immune cells leave whatever they're doing at the moment to gather on your skin, because that's the place of likeliest injury. The skin is the biggest organ that we have. Your digestion shuts down and the liver starts to release glucose into the blood. Lastly, most blood goes into the limbs to allow you to run or fight or flight. And a lot of our stress and threat comes from our social environment, as we try to avoid being cast off our own tribe. That comes from our ancestors that needed a tribe to survive and to share the tasks, to be able to create community and survive. So what's the chronic stress effects? Because stress is okay for a short period of time, but what about the chronic stress? For example, for diabetes, during stressful moments, more sugar is in your bloodstream. For heart disease, your blood runs through your veins in a higher pressure. For ulcers, gastrointestinal complications come up. For infertility, if you perceive a lot of stress, your body has less time to give energy to reproduction. For immune dysfunction, since your immune system is waiting to be attacked from elsewhere, it can focus on the stressors inside the body. For mood and brain disorders, the brain, if depleted of dopamine for too long, can assume that it won't ever get it again, and thus develop depression. For weight gain, sugar cravings comes with stress in order to manage the cortisol in the bloodstream. So this is how chronic stress affects us. So let's talk a little bit about the perception. How do we perceive stress? Perceiving stress as danger makes it dangerous, while perceiving stress as an opportunity for growth can help us create more growth. So we can actually choose how to perceive what's happening around us. Therefore, inner stillness is the state we create when we are more resilient. We know how to respond skillfully to stress, and when we reduce the amount of source of stress. So this is what we want to achieve. These 3 elements: resilience, reducing the sources, and responding skillfully. So for resilience, how do we increase our resilience to stress? By focusing on social support. As we were saying, the main factor of increase of our resilience is our social support. It's about the quality of our connections. Do you have 3 close relationships that you can rely on and call them at any time of the day or night? Do you feel safe that you will be supported? That's our number 1, resilience. And for that, we can also do a few things like mindful practices, like mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is MBSRs, and mainly these these tools helps us by labeling a situation. So whenever there is a trigger or a sensation of stress, we can actually label it. So it becomes something independent from us, where there's a space between that stress and us, where we can make a choice. Another thing that we can do is gratitude practices. I love this one. So focusing the brain to allowing the brain to focus on positive things. For example, consider writing a handwritten thank you note. Just leave a thank you note to a colleague, a family member, your partner. How cool would that be? And then we also, of course, have the physiological elements. Number one, exercise, right? We can just exercise and allow our body to also release and manage that stress. We can also manage stimulants like caffeine. We can also, hey, what about going into a mini challenge? If you drink coffee, what about taking 1 week of caffeine and just see how that affects your stress levels as a little test. And then there are two things that we could possibly take to help as well, which is to increase the omega-3 fish oils and fatty acids and magnesium. So that's now number one. Number two is reducing the sources. How can we reduce the sources of stress? What about reviewing our goals? Are your goals creating a lot of stress? Do we have too many goals? Are they too far-fetched? If they're too far-fetched, I think that's absolutely great. But what about putting in some milestones? So then we focus on the next milestone instead of the big goal for a little while to create balance. What about hard decisions? Do you have to make many hard decisions often? On a regular basis, ongoing? Is there a way for you to manage that? Another one, do you need to bring in more self-care? This one normally applies to women because women tend to be mothers, take carers, so they start taking care of other people and forgetting about the self. But it applies to everyone. And it's said that the next question applies more to men, but I think it applies also to women. Are you avoiding to process stuff or stressful situations? Like, I don't see you, I just keep on going, I avoid it. So we want to see where our sources of stress are coming from and reduce them. And our third one is responding skillfully. And for us to respond skillfully, the best way is to manage the breath. Breath calms you down, and it's something that is available for us all the time. Breath, oxygen is what we need to live. We cannot be without it for more than a few minutes. So when we manage our breath, we can manage our central system. Therefore, getting into balance and inner stillness. A great one is alternative nostril breathing or pranayama, and it's one of the most effective ways to switch from a sympathetic state to a parasympathetic state. And it's very simple to do. You basically you can use these two fingers. You cover one nostril and inhale. Cover the other one, exhale. Inhale through the same one. Cover and exhale. You can do this for 6 times. that's it. That's how you can bring yourself back into inner stillness. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video. Bye.